is up, everybody? My name is Mitchell Brewer, and welcome back to Encumbered. I apologize that we missed last week, but we are back in a big way this week because I think every NASCAR fan knows what this week represents. It's the beginning of the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs. That is right. It's that time of year again. The stretch to the championship begins this Sunday at Darlington Raceway, where 16 drivers begin their quest to win a championship. 16 drivers are going to be competing for it, but only one driver is going to walk away as this year's NASCAR Cup Series champion. And before we get into the action this Sunday, I had the opportunity to participate in NASCAR Cup Series Playoff Media Day this past Tuesday. It's my fourth year doing it, and every single year it's something that I really look forward to, hearing what some of the stars of the sport are thinking as they head into this critical juncture of the season. And if you are interested also in this podcast, we're going to hear from some drivers. But if you also want to hear my playoff predictions, stick around till the end of this podcast and you will hear who I think will be eliminated after the round of 16, who I think will be eliminated after the round of 12, who I think the championship for will be, and who I think will be walking away with the NASCAR Cup Series championship in Phoenix. But you have to stick around for that. However, if you're just here to hear from some drivers, well, I got some good news for you. That is coming up right now. And we're going to start off with 2012 NASCAR Cup Series champion, Brad Keselowski. So let's talk about Brad Keselowski, a guy that's made a lot of headlines, but for mostly stuff that's going on outside the track. Of course, the big headline that's been surrounding Brad Keselowski is the fact that he's going to be leaving Team Penske at the end of the 2021 season, going over to Roush Fenway, where he'll be a part owner and a full-time driver of the number 6 Roush Fenway Ford in 2022. But again, that's all stuff that's been going on off track, and really, there hasn't been much to talk about for Brad Keselowski on track. He won earlier this season at Talladega, but really, that's kind of been it for Brad. He's been, and maybe this is me being a little too harsh, but he's been overshadowed by his teammates, Joey Logano, and of course, Ryan Blaney, who has won the last 2 races. So that really got me thinking, how important is it to start off the playoffs good for Brad? So if somebody like a Brad Keselowski, who hasn't really had the best of success this season, who could really use that game changer, that big start to the postseason, like we saw from Tony Stewart a couple of years ago, that went and really won him a championship. So what does he think of that? Does he think that the round of 16 is going to be really important for you? His answer kind of surprised me, to be honest.
Brad, how important do you think a good start in the round of 16 is to having a successful playoff run?
Outside of, kind of getting to the round of 12, the first round really is not super impactful in my mind. It's really the third round that I think is super important.
Kind of in a similar boat as Brad Keselowski, another driver who's been really, really under the radar this season has been Aric Almirola. In fact, I think if you go back 2 months, I don't think anybody has Aric Almirola in the playoffs. Really, it looked like Kevin Harvick was going to be the only guy representing Storehouse Racing this season in the playoffs, and even that was a big mystery until 2 weeks ago. But it just didn't. I think Aric Almirola was even below Chase Briscoe. I could be wrong about that in points. He was in the bottom 20s. It didn't look like he was going to be a factor at all this season. People are really starting to wonder, is he even going to be back next season, because he's just not had any success. Then he goes in to New Hampshire a few weeks ago and just shocks everybody and goes in, wins his first race of the season, locks himself in, and all of a sudden Aric Almirola is competing for a championship. And I think he's really one of the biggest mysteries, just because we really don't know which Aric Almirola are we going to get in the playoffs. Are we going to get the guy that went out and stunned everybody at New Hampshire? Or are we going to get the guy that was sort of just there the other 25 weeks? And with that in mind, I really wanted to know what he thinks his biggest strengths are heading into this last 10 race stretch. And here's what he had to say.
Aric, what do you think your team's biggest strengths are heading into the playoffs?
Yeah, I've talked about it a lot in the last couple of weeks, but I would say the 750 package. Our short track program is really strong right now. And I feel like going into this first round of the playoffs, that sets up well for us. So I would say we got to play to our strengths. And I would say that the 750 package is certainly, where we're excelling right now.
Somebody who had kind of polar opposite season than Eric Almirola is William Byron, a guy that really kind of shocked everybody early in the season when he was able to pick up a win at Homestead in the third race of the season, lock himself into the playoffs, and then go on just this incredible stretch where he just kept getting top 10 after top 10 after top 10, really kind of solidifying himself as a guy that is no longer just there at Hendrick Motorsports, really as somebody that, hey, if he can make the most of the opportunities, he could be somebody that can compete with his teammates Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson. And with that in mind, I was really intrigued to hear how locking himself into the playoffs early in the season really changed the perspective at the 24 team. And here's what William Byron had to say about that.
William, you were able to lock yourself in the playoffs pretty early this season. How much of a benefit do you think that was to your team?
Yeah, it was huge. I mean, I think we didn't start the first two races like we thought or like we should have. We finished in the 30s, I think. So, for us to win the third race of the season kind of shot us up in the points. I think we're 13th after Homestead, and then we just went on that stretch of really good finishes for 10 weeks in a row, and that really kind of catapulted us into the top 5 in points, and we kind of stayed there the rest of the year. And I think we've had really good moments, and we've had some moments where we learned some things, but honestly the consistent thing's been we've had the speed to win races, and we've had the ability to drive up there to the front and lead laps. So I don't see that changing.
The next driver I talked to, he's kind of in a similar position than William Byron. Actually, he's in a better position, but I don't know if many people would know that just with how quiet he's been during the summer. For example, if I told you that this guy was tied for the second seed entering the final 10 races of the season, I don't necessarily know that you would believe me. And you probably should, because this is a guy that has proven to be very consistent over the last few years and has proven to be a guy that knows how to get to the championship for. The driver I'm talking about, of course, is the driver of the number 19 Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota, Martin Truex Jr. And here's what we talked about during playoff media day.
Martin, you entered the playoffs tied for the second seed. How big of a deal is that for you?
It's a decent spot, I think. Obviously, we'd all like to have Larson's bonus points. You always want to be the guy that has the most of those, and not necessarily because it's you want to use them or whatever. I mean, I think you enter the playoffs, you don't really want to have to worry about bonus points, but it's always nice to have that safety net. So I think we're in a good spot. We'd like to have more points, obviously, for a safety cushion, but being tied for second is a good show of our strength. And with the summer we've had and the issues we've had, to still be tied for second is, I feel like, pretty impressive. So we definitely left some points on the board there, and hopefully we can get back to what we know how to do here in the next 10.
And from somebody who was quietly consistent throughout the regular season, like Martin Truex Jr., to put himself in a position where he is second entering the final 10 races of the season, we go to somebody who is quietly consistent in the wrong way, having 4 straight finishes of 20th or worse. That man is Joey Logano. And I just wanted to know, how important is it to just quickly get that turned around, and how important is the playoffs just to reset that? As you're focusing on a championship, you don't want to worry about what's went wrong in the last couple of weeks. You want to focus on what you can do right now. And here's what Joey Logano had to say as he looks to better his luck at Darlington this weekend, where he finished second last year in the Southern 500.
Joel, you come into the playoffs with 4 finishes of 20th or worse. How important is it just to have a solid day at Darlington to start your playoffs?
Well, I think it's pretty important. You bring up a solid point. We've had a few races that have been pretty tough on the finishing side, but if you look at the race as they've gone, they've been races where we can run at a top 5 in every single one of them. So the confidence and what we can bring to the racetrack is up pretty high. I think the speed's there, our pit crew's there. I feel like I'm firing on all 8 as well. We just run into everything you possibly can imagine to lately. It's just the craziest things have happened, and it is what it is. It just happens sometimes. And so, yeah, Darlington would be great just to have a normal day, but a win would be even better, and that's still our goal.
All right. If you have stuck around this long, that means you're intrigued about who I think is going to win the 2021 NASCAR Cup Series championship. And first off, thank you. I appreciate the fact that you care about my opinion. And you know what? I'm going to give it to you. But first, let's start off with who I think is going to be eliminated in the round of 16. Now, I preface this by saying, if you look at the regular season as a whole, and you look at the guys that have been really good this year, and the guys that haven't been really good this year, I don't think these 4 names are going to surprise you when I say them out loud. However, if you don't take all that in consideration, there's a couple of names that I think that will be eliminated in the first round that would surprise somebody, maybe a more casual viewer. So first off, I think Michael McDowell, bless his heart, and you know what? Props to Michael McDowell, because him and Front Row Motorsports have had a lot better of a season than I think a lot of people are giving him credit for heading into the playoffs. I believe they finished 21st in the regular season standings, but they were a top 20 team pretty much the entire season from Daytona up until the last couple of weeks. So they've been consistent. They've been better than some of the other playoff drivers that are in the playoff field. However, I just don't see them getting through this round. I think it's an easy pick to say that they're going to get eliminated, but there's a reason it's an easy pick to say that they're going to get eliminated. And who knows? Maybe he'll come out and surprise me. If he does, then he turns into a kind of a sleeper to get into that round 8 because we have Talladega in the round of 12. But I just don't see that happening. Unfortunately, I think Michael McDowell will be the first guy to be going home. Another guy that I think will be going home is Eric Almirola. I just haven't seen that consistency that I need to see out of this team. Really, I don't really think they're much of a playoff team. They had that really good weekend at New Hampshire, but like I said earlier, what else had they done? And I know the playoffs are all about what have you been doing for me lately, but I don't know. I can't sell myself on the 10 team looking at the regular season, looking at everything as a whole. I think they will be a quick exit as well. Okay, so now 2 guys that are the surprises. And again, I don't think it's a surprise if you look at how they've been compared to everybody else this season. But it's just a surprise because these are 2 guys that could easily all of a sudden find momentum, go on a run, and make the championship 4, which both of these guys have done multiple times. But I think Kevin Harvick, I think he'll be out after the first round. I don't think he enters the playoffs as the final seed. I'm not exactly sure how many playoff points he has entering the playoffs, but he's the 16th seed, which is never a good start unless if you're able to, again, find momentum really quickly. But he's already in a hole, especially when he is the 16th seed. I just haven't been, I don't even remember the last time they really even talked about Kevin Harvick during one of these races where it's been, hey, there's this guy that won so many races last year. He's just been kind of invisible. And I know this is a guy who has a nickname, a legend, essentially, named after him, where he was Mr. Where Did He Come From? And maybe that'll be, again, the case this season. I just don't see it happening. And another guy that I just don't see as champion this season is Brad Keselowski. I think all of the momentum is fallen completely flat with Brad. And it's not that big of a surprise because we see this a lot with drivers and teams that are going to be parting ways with each other, where it seems like the wheels just fall off and they just cannot find the right way or cannot find their way back towards the front. And I haven't been impressed by Brad this season, and I feel like it's just more so everybody's just trying to get through the year with the two team, and that's not the philosophy you need to win a championship. All right. So now it gets really tricky with 12 drivers left in the playoffs. And the round of 12 is the biggest wild card. You got the Roval, you got Talladega, and you got Vegas, where we saw Kurt Busch and Matt DiBenedetto battling for a win last year, trying to keep their playoff hopes alive. So it's just a weird weekend. It's a weird weekend. It's a weird 3-race stretch. However, again, I'm going from a logical perspective, and I'm not expecting any big upsets to get through to the round of 8. I think I'll probably be wrong because it seems like every year we have one of those guys that just sneaks their way into the round of 8 and kind of plays that Cinderella story, kind of like we see in March Madness. But I think there's just too many heavy hitters at the top of the charts where it's going to be tough for these guys to make it through. So Tyler Reddick, I think he'll impress. I think he might have an Austin Dillon-like run in the round of 16. But then it's going to be tough for him, especially a guy that has never been in this situation before, to find momentum. I think he'll be out after the round of 12. Christopher Bell, another guy, first year in the playoffs. They're a team that's all right. I would say they're a solid C+, B- team. I think they're better than the 4 guys that are going to be eliminated, who I think are going to be eliminated in the round of 16. But I think that's about it. Kurt Busch, and this was a tough one to put on here because Kurt is just the wild card. He can just show up and all of a sudden have really good days. I think Chip Ganassi Racing has been a lot better than what everybody has really given them credit for this season. But I think his final season with Chip Ganassi, his final run for a championship with Chip Ganassi, ends in the round of 12. And then this might be the biggest surprise of the round of 12. I think William Byron will be eliminated. I think you look at the guys that are ahead of him on this list, and I think they have the expertise, the experience to really get themselves through the obstacles that are Talladega and the Roval. I know. William Byron, he won Daytona last season. I believe he won a dual race at the beginning of this year, but I don't know. I just don't see him making it past the round of 12 just because there's a loaded stack of guys that I have making this round of 8. And he could even be in that 9-10 range drivers that could really surprise us and win a championship. And I think there's that many guys that could go out and win a championship this year. Call me crazy. All right. Round of 8. Who's not making the championship for? And again, this is just so tricky because all of these guys that I had being eliminated after the round of 8 could make the playoffs. I think, or could make the championship for, sorry. Kyle Busch, I know. He is a guy that you can never count out. He's been really strong this season, but I just don't know if it's been a championship year for Kyle. And basing it off of the regular season, I know he's been really good. I just don't know. I think he gets eliminated after the round of 8. Of course, he found success last year in the round of 8. It didn't matter because he was already eliminated. He won at Texas after the 5-year rain delay. But I don't see him finding the same success this year. I think he will be eliminated in the round of 8, as will be Alex Bowman, a guy that he's gotten really lucky with his wins this season. And I think that kind of throws him under the radar of a lot of people. I think Alex is a very good driver, and he knows how to take advantage of situations. But I don't think he's quite there where he's a championship 4 driver. I think he could very easily make the championship 4. I just don't see it right now. I need to see more of Alex. I think he's right in that I think he's firmly in the top 8 drivers in the Cup Series right now. I don't think he's a top 4. I don't think he's making that championship 4. And then I got a pair of teammates. I think Team Penske has looked a lot better the last couple of races, especially from Ryan Blaney and Joey Logano. I just don't know if it's going to stick. I don't know if these guys are going to be able to find that momentum where they could make the championship for. And these are 2 guys that I could very easily see winning the championship this season, especially Ryan Blaney, who's all of a sudden found a lot of momentum. But I look at Ryan as kind of like a Chase Elliott story. He won his first race. He had a lot of success in the playoffs, which I think Ryan will have his fair amount of success in the playoffs. But he just came up short of that championship 4. And I think it's going to be something Ryan Blaney needs to really elevate him, that's the word I was looking for, to that next level and really make him a championship contender in 2022. I don't think it'll be his year this year, though. And then Joey, that one's tough because Joey Logano is a very good playoff driver, and that's why I haven't making it so far. I don't think Joey Logano necessarily is one of the best drivers in the series right now. No, not discrediting Joey, but he's had a bad stretch of racing. But when the time comes, he's very good at coming alive. I just don't know if it's going to be enough this year to make that championship 4. So I don't think he'll make the championship 4. The 4 drivers I do think will be racing for a championship at Phoenix. I think Denny Hamlin, super consistent. I don't think that stops in the playoffs. Chase Elliott, a guy that has just been good all season. I don't think that team's found everything that they have to offer yet. I think they're going to have a really good playoff run. So I think they'll be in the championship 4. Martin Truex Jr., I talked about him earlier, very quiet. I didn't even realize he was a second seed until I looked at the point standings after Daytona. I think he could very easily be that guy that doesn't win a race, but makes it in by points at the end of all of this and makes his way to Phoenix. And then, of course, the 2021 NASCAR Cup Series regular season champion, Kyle Larson, who has just been, at points, unstoppable this season. However, and this may be my boldest prediction yet, I don't think Kyle Larson is going to win the championship this season. I know. That may come as a big shock to everybody, but I just think that there is a guy that I just listed off that is going to really show himself to be a championship contender, a guy that has worked very hard to win a championship. Denny Hamlin, I think, is going to win his first NASCAR Cup Series championship this season. I think these final 10 races, he was second in the regular season without ever winning a race. And I think a lot of people think he had a bad regular season because he didn't win a race, even though he was second in the regular season. I think this is a guy that is going to be slept on early, but he's going to prove himself very quickly. I think he comes out and wins the Southern 500, and I think he wins a boatload of races, maybe even having a Tony Stewart-style dominant run to the championship. That is my prediction, and you know what? I'm curious. What do you think? Who do you think is going to win the championship? Feel free to let me know at Facebook at Black Hat Sports, on Twitter at MitchellB66. Who do you think is going to win the championship? Heck, who do you think is going to win the Southern 500? Hey, am I full of crap? You let me know on Twitter or Facebook, and who knows, maybe I'll just respond to you. But that is all I have for you today. Thank you for listening, and I will be back next week with a new episode of Encumbered. Again, thank you for all of your support. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at MitchellB66 and like my Facebook page, Black Hat Sports. I hope you have a great Labor Day weekend, and I'll see you again soon.